When we've been praying about something for a long time and there's no change, it's easy for us to grow weary. But we don't want our prayer lives to become routine where it isn't fresh and fervent. Today, we are looking at the paralytic that four friends brought to Jesus Christ for healing. And we can discover some ways to help our prayer lives from this passage. From Mark chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, it says, "And some people came, bringing to him a man who was paralyzed, carried by four men. And when they were unable to get to him because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him, and after digging an opening, they let down the pallet on which the paralyzed man was lying." And we know what happens. The man ends up at the feet of Jesus, and Jesus heals him. But what I want to draw our attention to are four action words that these friends did. Four things they had to do to get their friend to Jesus and for Jesus to heal their friend. And the first one was carried. They carried their friend on a makeshift stretcher in order to get to Jesus Christ. This was a burden. Even if he didn't weigh very much, it still would have been strenuous, especially carrying him up the steps to the roof. And I'll explain about the Jewish rooftops in a minute. Do you ever get a burden for someone? I have had a burden for someone just recently, and I keep praying for that person continually, day and night, time after time. Have you ever had a burden like that? I hope if you do, you pray for that person. And because as Christians, we are supposed to bear one another's burdens, aren't we? But we can also apply this to our own needs because we have burdens of our own that we may just forget to pray about because they've been around for so long. Now, for example, I can give you a great one for myself: blindness. I have been legally blind since childhood. I don't usually pray about my blindness. I would love for Jesus to heal my blindness. I really would. It becomes worse and worse as time goes on. But do I ask him to pray? Do I ask him to heal me? Not very often. Maybe once a week, if that often. And the same may be true for you. You may have that same old ache, that same old pain, that same old problem that has been around for so long that you just forget to pray about it. And maybe it's that same child who is out there in the world and it's been years. I've got one of those too. We need to carry our burdens to the Lord. Now, that's the first thing. So then, once they arrived at the house, they found they could not get in through the door, and they had to find another way to get to Jesus. Now, these guys, I like them. They thought of everything. Now, the Jewish housetop was flat, and they usually had a staircase leading up to it. It was made of some sort of tiles with mud and branches and stuff, and it was sturdy enough that people could stand up there, or they could probably have chairs or something up there, and that's where they would entertain. It would be like we would use as a family room or a front porch. So they had to remove part of the roof before they could dig into it. That is what we need to do. What do we need to remove from our lives to get our prayer lives stimulated? How about our phones? Maybe we need to remove our phones from our area of prayer. That's hard for me because I like to pray through my Bible and I use my phone for the Bible. How about also thoughts that wander? Now I have trouble with that. And it is hard to put thoughts out of your head that are wandering. But here's a good one. What needs to be removed from our schedule to give us more time for prayer? Think about that. what needs to be removed so that we can have more time with Jesus. Next, they had to dig into the roof to make a large enough hole to let the man down. Dig. We're not going to dig into a roof. We need to dig into the Word of God. We need to dig into the Bible, into the promises and the scriptures that are in there that we need to bring to Jesus that affect our prayer request. You know, it might be a certain promise. It might be, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, because you're afraid of something you need to do that you can't do. Or maybe it's God supplying all of our needs because you have financial needs. And then finally, they let the man down to the feet of Jesus Christ, and Jesus healed him. Now, if we change our prayer lives, don't expect that Jesus is going to heal you because you go through these 4 steps. But this is what I want to say. When we get to the feet of Jesus, that is where we need to leave our burden. Not that we don't pray that prayer again. We need to. We need to pray that prayer every day. But we don't carry it around as a burden on us, as a worry, as a fear, as anxiety. We don't do that. We leave it at the feet of Jesus Christ. And every day we go back, we remove the things, and we dig into the Word. We still keep praying. So I hope that this passage and these few tips help you energize your prayer life. And next week, I'm going to be back with things that interfere with our prayer life. So I hope to see you back then. Be blessed. And as always, subscribe and check out my description for my book link and other things you may be interested in, other videos. See you later.